Yeah.
Are you captivated by the matchup and the two differences in the sides, and how do you see it?
Well, I think we're going to talk about the fact that this is the first time for a long time that I can recall two teams coming in pure form, like 15 in a row and 9 in a row, like pure form. I know there's some health concerns with Holmes and with Reid, but lists that are almost absolutely 100% healthy. I know Naismith went down for the Swans at the start of the year, but apart from that, they're pretty much pure health. You don't get that. There's always 2 or 3 hard luck stories. We haven't really had that this year with these two teams. So that's the great unknown, is they play so differently, yet they're so effective in what they do. So that's why I think it comes down to, in the end, these games get separated by the stars. Which stars perform at closest to their absolute best?
Who's got more stars?
Well, the Cats have probably got more individual stars, but then they've
Sydney
got a few
match
role
winners
players
though,
as
don't
well.
they?
Yeah. So I think you go back to what you trust. And in the end, we're all guessing, really, because you don't really know who's going to win this matchup. But have you got trust in Heaney being close to 10 out of 10, or Dangerfield? Have you got trust in Papley or Stengel?
Yep.
Are you Franklin or Cameron?
Yeah.
Like, you in the end have to make your own decisions.
Are you Warner or Dangerfield?
Yeah, well, Warner's a wild card. I mean, Warner could have 25 disposals and rip the game to shreds.
Or he might not touch it.
Or he might have 15 nice disposals and not. So it's in the end what you trust or what you believe, but the matchup itself, I think, is a cracker that we all just have to sit back and say, unfortunately, there has to be a loser. There has to be a winner. There has to be a loser. But this is a great game for us to watch.
It is interesting. You know, I've been strong on not carrying injured players in finals, but then you look back on the history of grand finals, and there's been some famous ones that have worked.
Yeah.
So if it was a bigger name player, and I know he's been a really important player for them, would there be a bit more leeway if it was a Dangerfield or a Jeremy Cameron to back them in? Stephen May last year played with, a 3 or 4 centimetre tear in his hammy. So how did Melbourne weigh that one up? We've seen Nigel Lappin in the past, Stevie J. I mean, there's been 100 stories, and we can speak to Josh Kennedy and Brad Altons about that. But how do you weigh up the risk versus reward with a player like Holmes?
Sometimes you don't know. Like at 20 years of age, you don't know your body. He would be reluctant to say, I'm absolutely 100% right,
it's
coach.
enormous pressure, isn't it?
I've been through this before. I've handled this. I've handled that. He just hasn't done that.
Yeah.
So he has to give the coach an honest answer as to whether he's 100%. There's no grey area. Are you 100% right to go? We can't be 100%.
So then he can't play.
So he who makes the call? Does the coach just say, you know what, I've got 3 healthy players jumping out of their skin to choose from here? And everyone thinks it's going to be Menegola coming in to play your role. Smith to the wing, Menegola to half forward, whatever, or whichever way you want to roll it. I think logic says you have to go in with 100% healthy over the 20-year-old.
The Friday agenda.
Can I start the agenda?
Please.
Vindication for the list decision by the Geelong Football Club, the bravery to get Jeremy Cameron. 3 first-round selections going back one way, two going the other for 2 second-rounders. It was a big price at the time. There was a lot of feedback. There was a lot of discussion about how old the Cats list was and were they tracking to the next opportunity. They find themselves in a grand final as quickly as they have. Vindicated?
If they win.
Only if they win.
Only if they win.
Oh, you're a hard man. Mate, you were emotional at 7. And
now I'm back. I'm back in character. Only if they win and he kicks 6. Nah.
Only if they win?
Well, it was shrewd, wasn't it? And the Giants, well, they matched the deal, which we just hadn't seen with the restricted free agency part of it, which forced them to trade for him, and they coughed all that up. And to your point, you're ahead of the curve on this, Kingy. You said, I'm not sure I'm going to say it was around 10 or 11 that he's the best player in the competition. I think he's probably proved us right. Proved you right. I think he probably is unanimously the best player in the competition now.
He's different, isn't he? Like, this is the point with Geelong's mix. They're playing different functions. They're not the standard role. So everyone just says, "Oh, Rampy's got a great record on him. Here's what he did in 2019. Here's what he did." And I think, well, that's nothing to do with the way he's playing now.
Not now.
He's a different beast now.
So yes, and he gets up, doesn't he? And then the Hawkins problem. He hasn't been in great form, Tom, and then last week he just turned it on. So, and then the other forwards. I mean, Gary Rowan's a player who can not do a lot, but he could easily kick four tomorrow.
Yeah,
like easily. So I do love the dynamic of the forward line and
sticking with the list stuff,
the selflessness of it.
You want to go the other side of the coin?
No, you go first. Fire some more stuff. Oh, sorry, I do. Yeah, just how you would be feeling. Now we're going to have a really busy trade period coming up. We're going to see a lot of players move. We're going to see a lot of big name players move, and it's all well and good to get the financial security or head home if you're homesick and you want to do that like an Isaac Rankin type. But how would Jordan Dawson be feeling right now?
Oh.
So he's gone to Adelaide on a big deal and he's been a terrific addition to Adelaide. But he's 5 years away from where Sydney are tomorrow. And he would be a walk-up start as, a top 12 player in that Sydney side and would play an important role. So I have a thought about that. I have a thought about George Hewitt to a lesser extent because I'm not sure how significant his role would be with the way that Sydney have rejuvenated the midfield with more speed. But when you make these big decisions at trade period, often you might not think about, where is my club and am I costing myself perhaps a one and only shot at winning a premiership?
It's a great discussion.
Yeah.
And sometimes the go-home factor is just so strong, the rest of it just gets – you just can't have the discussion. But if you're talking about the absolute employment side of it, the opportunity to win a premiership, that's why we all play. We love the game. It's not really because you draw X amount of dollars out of it. We love competing. Yep. At the time, I said Jordan Dawson's walking away, and the Swans were pointing this out. Mate, don't leave this group. Don't leave. We need you. You're your best kick in the competition. You're our wingman. So he leaves, and it hasn't affected them. Like, that's the thing that blows us away.
Well, Dylan Stevens is probably that player now, isn't he?
He's
playing really well. So that's probably opened up the position for Dylan.
And just had a text come through there from Mark from Sydney. So he's talking about the Cats. Just to sort of surmise it a fraction and throw it at you, are you worried about the Cats' lack of leg speed, particularly if Max Holmes doesn't play? We're on the big venue again of the MCG. The Swans can put speed on the game via leg speed regularly, which has been a feature and a reason why they've won big games at the MCG recently. Are you worried about the Cats' leg speed or not?
Probably that would be the one area that you would be concerned. They have had a conscious effort they've also just added runners. So not only leg speed, but those aerobic animals that get up and down, Myers and Holmes, that he may not play close and play. Isaac Smith has done it for so many years. So I think they probably cover for that with their game style and their team defence and how hard they are to score against, and then off the turnover they go. So they move the ball with more speed, more so than pure leg speed individually. But Sydney will challenge them in that space. They got speed everywhere. Goulden, McInerney, Warner, Rowbottom's not slow. Papley's lightning. Oh, I just love it.
You're the tag. You're the go-to tag man, right? Where are you for both teams assigning your tags or your run with rolls?
I loved what Geelong did to Neil. So this is my view. I am you can evolve in your thinking. I was never you got to send a Ryan Crowley to Lachie Neale, and Neale has 21 and Crowley has 6.
Yep.
And you blow out all your structure. But it was just, if Lachie Neale is standing there, don't let him stand alone. And if it's Atkins, it's Atkins. If it's Selwood, it's Selwood. And it was a pure team role. I thought the execution of what they did on Neale and the brutality of it was one of the better things I've seen strategically. So who is that player? I probably think it's Warner. There's been some thought that they might target other players like a Parker, but I don't think he hurts you as much as Warner. So if I'm Geelong, I'm not going to let Chad Warner stand on his own at stoppage.
So it's a mix of blitz halves.
It's just whoever's there. Yeah,
it's a big frame of blitz halves. It's a problem, isn't it, for those smaller mids? And not that he's small by any stretch, but he's just so big.
Well, he can run. He's just such an elite runner with the background that he's got. And then they really was so taxing on Lachie Neale. You could see it just zapped all his energy to go and win the footy. So that's fascinating. as well.
Become a bit of a dump kicker because of the pressure that he was put upon. So if tagging, so that Warner would be your go-to for the Swans.
Warner's for me.
Would you tag other way around? So would you go after anyone from a Geelong point of view?
I don't think Geelong. You'd have to be the Dangerfield Mills one. Is interesting. I do love Callum Mills' ability to do the same and to test the player out the other way. And I know he did a pretty good job on him in round 2, I think it was, and won enough of the footy. I think it's a different Dangerfield now. I'm not sure how fully prepared physically Dangerfield was at that stage. He looks ready to go now.
Yeah, he's jumping.
Cherry ripe. So the way that they've managed this squad.
So I had a look at some numbers during the week.
Yeah.
And just the power running of why are Geelong so strong in last quarters? Because their last quarter numbers are just ridiculous. They're outscoring the opposition 4 or 5 goals on average. It's just crazy. And we're talking about the best teams in the comp, not just the also-rans that everyone does it too. So their midfielders get 2 breaks a quarter, the Geelong midfielders. The Swans midfielders get 1 break per quarter.
Right.
So they're playing 22 minutes more per game per player.
So it's
a massive number.
So Geelong leave the others on.
Yep. Geelong
leave their backs. They just rotate heavily through their high half forwards.
Stanley goes to centre half back. He stays on the field. Blitzars runs all day as a ruckman. He's a mid ruckman. He stays on. The forwards of Cameron and Hawkins stay on.
Henry and Stewart stay on.
They stay on. So all their rotations are utilised in the middle of the ground between the arcs. So the flankers and the high energy running mids. 22 minutes more a game it's another quarter of footy. So it's a factor.
Well, I couldn't work out why at the start of the qualifying final against Collingwood that Dangerfield and Selwood, they started on the bench. It would be to do with the rotations.
But it doesn't really matter.
I know, but then Dangerfield started on the ground and had that epic first quarter last week, so I doubt they'll start Dangerfield on the bench, but it would all be to do with the rotations and perhaps a bit of their age demographic as well. They've just managed the squad so well.
But they're only
in
playing,
every aspect.
Look, just to get back to this, so they're only playing 80 minutes. So if you're only playing 80 to 85 minutes.
Full on, flat out.
And you're a bloke you're standing next to, he's got to play 105, 107, 110 minutes. It's a big advantage. No,
that is 100% a huge advantage. Yeah. And Sydney perhaps prioritise giving their running defenders a rest more so than their midfielders. So Sydney are pretty good in last quarters. I know they fell asleep late against Collingwood, but their last quarter record's pretty good as well.
How do you see the Lance Franklin discussion? We've talked about Lance a lot this year. It may all come down to Lance. I mean, if Reid plays and he's impacted, well, you would hope that he would kick 1 or 2 if he's impacted. May not even get that. May not even play. And then you've got McLean, who's been a good performer for them, but hasn't played for 3 months in the senior team. So it's hard to bank on him for goals. A lot of responsibility falls onto Franklin to be the primary target.
Yes.
He was fantastic last week.
I thought he was good last week, albeit
better than good.
It's strange they put Maynard to him.
Well, Maynard, Howe, everyone but Darcy Moore until half time. And then after half time, Darcy Moore, he did some amazing things.
He was good.
So if it is to be Franklin.
Well, when you asked Josh Kennedy, who would you love to be best on ground? I would have said Franklin. If Franklin is the best player on the ground for Sydney, they win.
He didn't say Franklin.
I know, he said Heaney.
Yeah.
I would have said Franklin though, but Josh would know.
You wouldn't have said Franklin. Well, he's not in the top 200 in the comp.
But being in the top 200 is still a very good achievement. That is still elite.
Don't do it.
What's the percentages of that? It's top 25%. Top 25% player in the game, Buddy Franklin. If I'd said it that way, would that?
Let's not argue.
Would that have been what?
It's been an emotional week for you.
This text coming through. It's not a fitness thing. It's a class thing. The cream rises to the top, says Harry. Good morning to you fellas. I'm a Lions fan. And
Sorry, keep going.
He's just getting over last week's mauling anyway.
What do you... See, I would have said Tom Hickey. So I think if
he's best player,
because Hickey can do it. He can do this. He can get forward and kick goals. He's an offside runner where he charges forwards. Hickey for me has got the potential to be a top 2, top 3 performer on Saturday against the Stanley. Say he gets hold of Blitzarves in the ruck and sets the midfield of the Swans off and running. Like that's a big factor in this game. Who has advantage for territory? Because neither team are going to be able to move the ball. It's going to be very difficult to take the ball
low
out of defensive
scoring.
50.
You think low scoring?
Well, when the best play the best, you generally track towards a lower scoring game. I mean, that's why the start of last week, Sydney and Collingwood was ridiculous,
Wasn't it?
So we don't normally see that. So I think Hickey, if Hickey has a big day, I mean, there's no other options when you're getting beaten in the ruck, really. Like Stanley, challenge him, go to blitz-ups. Challenge him. There's no one else.
Stanley's the winkest link.
You're here. I mean,
in one piece.
You look gone, to be honest. How are you feeling?
I am gone. I've never felt like this before. I just, I've just everything sort of seized up. My feet are gone. My back is absolutely gone, and the lack of energy is quite stark, really. So I honestly don't. I said this last night. I couldn't have done another day.
Right.
To think of, we were starting at 7 o'clock each morning, so I'll be setting off again this morning. I'm just not sure I could have done another step. So I'm so overwhelmed and grateful and all of that, but I'm also relieved that it's finished.
Yeah. So can you break us down? So it's 12 days?
Yeah.
So can you take us through the days as to what you were doing, what you were achieving?
Well, so we left at, I like to leave at 7 each morning. Sometimes it was just a little bit before, sometimes after if you had any sort of media commitments. And we'd probably go for 30 Ks first up. So that's about 7 till 9:30. And so I had one van in front, one van behind, and then a big motorhome at the back. And we're on these busy freeways doing 12 kilometres an hour. You can imagine the traffic that's banked up and the angry truck drivers, and then the weather started.
This hasn't been good for your popularity.
No, not with the truck drivers. They're angry. Well, they've got places to be and deadlines. You got 2-lane highways, and they're banked up behind 2 cars, and they wouldn't have known what was going on up ahead. So they were a bit frustrated. So then we'd go till 9:30. We'd stop for breakfast. As I said numerous times, we had an incredible team that we had this sort of guru Mark who would whip up something for the crew and eat, and then we'd set out again and probably go from 30 to 45K and stop until we sort of got to the 65 kilometres per day. It was the most brutal thing I've ever done.
So just I know we'll get to the end of it in a sec, but so 65Ks every day, each day. That was roughly your number. What sort of times? Because I was blown away by the per minute sort of time. Per kilometre times you were doing in the first few days. Can you step us through the progress and how it finished?
So I probably went a little bit too hard. I think the first day I did 65Ks and it was about an average of 4:32 per K, which is reasonable. And then the next day was the same, and everyone's. I put the map up on social media. Everyone was saying, "How are you running so quickly? You better take it easy." And so I was quite sore on the second day. I had a bit of a chat to the team. They said, "Look, I reckon you should probably try and slow it down till about 5 minutes per K," which I probably didn't take the advice, but I did slow it down to closer to 4:50s, 5 minutes, and then by the end of it, I think yesterday was the slowest day. I think we did 5:04 per K, but it was only for 42 Ks yesterday. That's all I had left. So, yeah, Kingy was hard.
So every morning you wake.
Yes.
Is you wake to an ache, or how do you actually surface?
Well, when Croft did it, so I interviewed Croft a number of times, and he said he was quite good. He knew what was in front of me, but he was quite good at not scaring me. But he did say, "Look, I'm just telling you, you won't sleep because you've got no idea how much your body will ache." And he was right. So you lie there, and every move that you make, or you got to get up to go to the toilets, it's quite excruciating. Had a great osteopath, Dylan. So we probably had 2 or 3 treatments per day, and tried to get on top of things. Just sit in the shower in the morning, hot shower, and try and get the body warmed up and going. But I reckon I'm going to be paying the price for a little while yet.
Yeah. So that's the physical side of it. I want to get to the mental challenge of just staring at a road. How hard?
It was a great lesson I'm always one to look forward, like what's next, or what am I worrying about now? I look to the future too much. It was a good lesson in just staying sounds a bit cliche, but staying where you are now and just literally getting, sometimes it was just to the next signpost.
Right.
So the signposts are 100 metres away. Okay, let's get, when you're really battling, let's get to that one. Or if you're at, 15K, let's just get to 20 and then you can have a break. You tell yourself, okay, we'll have a break at 20. You don't. You say, okay, and then when you get to 20, you go, okay, 25. Well, we'll have a break at 25. I knew there was no time limit on it other than 12 days. So no one was forcing me to keep going, but it was a great lesson in, just trying to stay in that moment when you're really hurting or there's a massive hill coming up, just to put one foot in front of the other. But the mental side of it as well was meeting the people along the way, which I wasn't quite perhaps ready for. Like, just for example, there was a guy called Justin who I had no idea. So he just pulled off the side of the road about 300 metres up, the white car, and this guy gets out, a guy about my age, and thought he was just going to clap along and gave him a high five, and he starts running with me. I was like, oh, okay, mate, how you going? What's your name? He said, Justin. I said, oh, sorry, Justin, if I can't talk to you, I'm happy you're here, but if I don't say too much, you can understand. Yeah, no worries, no worries. He goes, oh, I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 8. And then I survived, and it came back, and he's telling me his story, hands over $250 in cash. He said, here's a donation. And so he's just running along with me. So things like that, and meeting the kids and the families that have been affected by it was the...
So you'd have been on the edge, though. Like mentally, you'd have been fried and probably a little bit emotional just in yourself. Did that rock you? That knock you around?
No, that one helped
Right.
because he looked amazing. He was a healthy guy now, and just to think that when he was 8, it wasn't so much, and that was sort of the reason that we're doing it. So I loved that one. Had just one junior footballer just come and run for 10Ks when I was really struggling. I was like 18-year-old kid, just ran for 10Ks with me. So that aspect of it was something I'll look back on and go, this was just amazing. Like, as much as I'm hurting now and as how brutal it was, I think I'll look back on it and go, it was pretty incredible to meet all of these people. So I've just got to say, your support, SEN support, everyone, the donations, I was just watching it come through. It's just absolutely overwhelming. So I can't thank everyone enough. The SEN Network, Hutchie, and 2 weeks off they gave me to do this as well. So I can't thank everyone enough.
The 2 weeks was fine. The hour at the end we'll talk about after the show. But so you finally know you're going to get there.
Yeah.
So when was that? When did you say, you know what, I'm going to get there? Was there a day or a stop or a moment where you thought? Because there was, I think, reading between the lines, there were times where you thought, "Listen, I'm not going to get there."
Yeah, day 2 at about 45K, so that was our lunch stop on day 2. I was thinking, I'm actually not sure I can do this, and had to have a good hour break and almost fell asleep. This is day 2. We've got 10 more days of this. And just one, I've had stress fractures before or stuff. One stress fracture, you're not going to be able to run. So when did I know I could get there? When we got it, it was an average of 60 Ks per day, but because we got so far in front, the first 5, 6, 7 days we were 65, 67 Ks. Once it tipped under 50 Ks per day that I had to get on average, I thought, well, even if you had to walk it, 50 Ks, you could do it in about 10 hours. We didn't walk a step, but I knew that if I had to. So once we tipped under there, I was pretty confident.
So was there a market?
What
place was that?
That was probably with 3 days to go. So Ballarat, we stayed for 2 nights in Ballarat. So we would finish on the road, mark the road, drive to the accommodation, and then the next day drive back to where we finished and start from there. Had someone, my grandma lives in Geelong. I hadn't seen her for 4 years, and they drove down with my uncle Kim from Barwon Heads, where they live in Geelong, and met grandma in Ballarat, and I thought, oh, gee, I'm going to make it now. So that was magnificent. Had so much family support. And then, so it was good, Kingy. I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, I know. I know you want to stop talking about yourself, but I don't want to stop talking about it. So let's just keep going for a minute. And I think with these things, so many people are doing it tough out there, and they feel like they're alone, and they feel like their family situation is their lot, and they are very insular. How many people have reached out, and how many messages have you had since? Not just since, because it's only been a dozen hours or so, but across the last 3-4 days, come through your family, come through your contacts.
It's been amazing, and I guess now with social media, the amount of contact that you can have with people that you haven't seen for such a long time. You know, people I went to school with 15 years ago, reaching out. I reckon, you know, it's the proudest I've seen Dad. Like, of all the, you know, you played footy for 15 years and saw him so happy in the change rooms after 2004. It was unbelievable. But he's been so invested in this run, and I don't get to see Dad that much, so that's been amazing. And my brother as well, and Mum. So bringing the family together to have the kids over, and they were there for part of it. So for them to see some of it and to run a little bit with me has been amazing. So the family aspect of it's been terrific, and then just the amount of messages. Like, obviously, it's pretty abrasive, isn't it, footy? And you have opinions, as you know, and
yeah.
Footy fans don't love your opinions if you say something negative, but there's been a lot of, look, I don't love what he says about my footy club, but I respect what he's done here, and I do appreciate those messages.
Mate, we're all proud of you.
Yeah.
We really are. But it is 7:15 the next morning, so what we want to do is look for the next challenge.
Oh,
No, we don't.
no.
No, we don't. We don't.